It's Dr. Garth Fisher on The Cutting Edge, and today, The Cutting Edge, we welcome a man whose vision extends from the skyline of Los Angeles to the rolling agave fields of Jalisco. Richard W. Selby is a distinguished Southern California real estate leader whose very successful, decades-long career has shaped neighborhoods, brokered landmark deals, and earned him a reputation for integrity, insight, and excellence. But Richard is more than a real estate icon. He is also the founder of Luna Nueva Tequila, a small batch artisanal spirit born from a dream under the new moon in Jalisco. Crafted from 100% agave, Luna Nueva blends traditional methods and intentional living. Offering a tequila with clarity, character, and soul, Luna Nueva Tequila. What ties two passions together, real estate and fine spirits, is Richard's commitment to creating value, cultivating legacy, and elevating experience in everything he does. From luxury properties to luxury pours, Richard Selby is a rare combination of builder, entrepreneur, and storyteller. Please welcome Rick to The Cutting Edge.
Thank you, Garth.
Good to have you here. And I know this is going to be a great conversation for people that want to learn about real estate. You're such a well-known and respected and very successful figure in real estate. So I'm excited to learn from you. And you've been in Los Angeles real estate for decades. What really inspired you to get into this business?
So, gosh, it's been so long, over 5 decades. I would say I came from a family, a true dirt family, meaning my uncles raised me, and along with my mother. And my uncles were in World War II, and in the late 40s were of Lebanese descent. So in the late 40s, when they got out, my grandmother, their mother, said to them, "You need to own real estate." Well, of course, they just got out of the war. Uncle Joe was in the Coast Guard. Johnny was an Air Force pilot. And all they could do is lease a very small amount of land in Hollywood. But that was the very start in the late 40s when they leased literally a 3,000 or 4,000 square foot property to, as it turned out, they were got in the parking lot business by default because people were coming to the Egyptian Theater wanting to park.
That's a great business, parking lots, right?
Great business, great cash business.
Yeah.
So they started with a very small amount of property, and then some 45 years later, they ended up with 4.5, 5 acres of property right in the center of Hollywood by the Egyptian Theater. And for the younger folks listening to this podcast, it's right next door to Sound Nightclub, which is a very well-known, famous nightclub. And Ledoux Cafe was on our property at one time. So how I got my start was working in the parking lots as a very, very young child, really, 6, 8 years old, sweeping up the parking lots.
Wow.
Kind of learning literally from the ground up. And that's how I got my start in real estate.
It's amazing because I know where you are now, and anybody that knows real estate knows you and how successful you are. And to hear that story is just so inspirational. You started from nothing, and somebody sweeping the floors. I mean, it's really from the ground up, and that's what I think anybody that's young and has any ambition at all should learn from you. And getting into real estate, you've always been the nicest guy that's always bringing gifts, and it seems like real estate may be more about relationships that you form than actually the business side of it. Do you think that's true? I know you bring sweaters, you bring gifts, and you're always buttering up somebody and being so kind to them.
Well, thank you for that. Much of what we're going to speak about today is every year we do several gatherings with our individuals that literally run the trains at the property, the managers, property managers, and especially at our holiday party. So we've acquired 4 or 5 new assets, 200, 300, 500 unit building, but it's not the buildings that make our company. It's the people. Mm-hmm. It's the individuals.
Yeah.
It's not the process or the property. It's literally the people. So today, I hope we can get into the relationships and what I think is important in the real estate business is not necessarily the property, but the relationships that you create and curate. And part of those relationships are you give before you receive. So I've always been one. I've been asked to speak at various universities. They ask me, well, how do you formulate those relationships? And I said, it's very simple. You try to offer something before you take something. So that's my mindset. And it's interesting that you speak about the gifts, because that's my mindset. Give before you take or receive.
That's a great mindset, and it really opens the door. So looking back at real estate, would you say the parking lot was your first big breakthrough deal in LA? Was there something else that was like beyond that, was like, wow, this is starting to move?
So actually not. Although I was working on the parking lots, one of my uncles, is kind of interesting fact, Joe Simon, he was one of the very first Hells Angels. And anybody that's grown up in Los Angeles knows about the Hells Angels. So to say he was a pretty tough guy would be an understatement.
Right.
So that's how I was raised, kind of under that level of aggression / discipline. And what that gave me is something that I term inspirational dissatisfaction. I was inspired to succeed because I was very dissatisfied, and I really didn't want to be part of the parking lot business. I didn't want to be under Uncle Joe's guidance at all. So when I got finished with SC, my mother, Jean, owned an escrow company. And so she said, so what are you going to do? You have a license that you got, real estate license you got while you were at school. Do you have any ideas what you want to do? And I said, no. Any suggestions? She says, I know 2 or 3 real estate brokers that are very successful. Why don't you go interview with them? So I did do that, and I found a real estate broker, Bill Clemens, who specialized and focused on apartment buildings only, on real estate in terms of real estate investments. So I would say my first big break came from that introduction. I went to work for Bill. So I'll give you the track to run on. And if you make 50 to 100 cold calls a day, you will be successful in this business. And so he explained to me how to do that. And that entails somewhere between 10 and 12 hours a day of very vigorous work, and to try to set up appointments, analyze properties, and get the listings for the property, et cetera, et cetera. So that was my first big break.
Well, I'm glad that you chose that path instead of riding on the motorcycles. That'd be quite a different story. This is Dr. Garth Fisher on The Cutting Edge. We're speaking with Richard W. Selby, who's a real estate mogul, and he's founder of Luna Nueva Tequila company, but he's very successful in real estate. How do you think, what's the biggest lessons you've learned about longevity in a competitive market like this?
Literally, because you call it the cutting edge, I'll cut to the answer. It's creating long-term sustainable relationships. That's the answer.
And you rely on that for longevity.
I rely on those relationships and expanding those relationships. And that's what keeps me going for the last 5 decades.
How do you feel the real estate landscape has changed in Los Angeles over the last 4 or 5 decades? I mean, that's a big question because there's so much about it, from commercial to, just different types of real estate. But how have you seen it change if you had to look back at that?
That's a great question. The city of Los Angeles in our state over the last decade has become exceedingly more progressive in terms of tenants' rights, and so as not to make this a political statement,
Right.
It's today at the state level and the local level, especially with our mayor, it's become very, very political and very much focused on tenants' rights. So that's really the biggest change. And with that change, you see companies such as Tesla, Oracle, Hewlett-Packard fleeing our beautiful state.
Of course.
And going to places like Texas, where the rights of ownership in business are more balanced than they are in the state of California and in the city of Los Angeles.
So it makes it really hard for somebody who's buying buildings to understand that there's going to be a big strain and compression, a lot of force on, what constraint on what you're able to do because of the state, I would imagine, and you have to be more careful in your calculations and more picky and choosy when what you purchase, I guess, right? In the areas or
Absolutely. And real estate is a very focused local business. And the way we conduct our business is a little bit different. Uh, Not that we don't or won't purchase through real estate brokers, but we have our own acquisition team, and we're continually out there in the field, same formula, making cold calls and getting in front of owners and trying to explain to them why our offer would be the best offer and why choosing us as a buyer is the best course for them. Over the last decade, that has focused us to move farther south to Riverside County, out of greater Los Angeles to Orange County. We own buildings in Orange County and South County, all the way down in and around La Jolla and through San Diego. We're just about 25 days from closing a very large transaction in Riverside County. And so that's been our focus over the last 10 years because of the progressive nature of the state of California and in the city of Los Angeles.
so you have to be very adaptable, especially and hopefully things will change. But you also have properties outside of the state, and you're in Nevada also, I think, and any other states.
No other states, and that's correct. In 2006, we we purchased 6 buildings. We still own 4 of them in and around the better rental areas of Las Vegas, which is Henderson, Green Valley. And we still have those buildings. We have 1,100 units in Las Vegas, and they've done quite well over the last 18 to 20 years.
So I don't want you to give you the secret sauce, but you talked about a formula. We have a little bit of time left. Is there like a paragraph on your formula, or is this very detailed? We don't want to give away your trade secrets.
Not at all, because it's really not just in talking about the 2 or 3 areas where our firm adds value, but it's also in the execution, which is a very long and detailed formula. But in essence, we try to buy below replacement cost. We try to purchase in A or B plus areas, coastal areas. What does that mean? Dana Point would be one where we would purchase.
Well, hold that thought. We're going to get back because I think you're going to want to go into that a little bit more. As Dr. Garth Fisher on the Cutting Edge, I'm here with Richard Selby, who's a very respected, successful real estate icon in Los Angeles, and he's also founder of Luna Nueva Tequila. And we're going to go through all that. And this is a great conversation for anybody that's investing or wanting to become a real estate in the real estate career, to listen to his words of wisdom. Without giving your secret sauce, you're so successful. What is your formula when you're out there searching for a product?
So for those of our listeners that have a real estate license, and for those that don't, of course, if you have your license, the 3 most important aspects of real estate when you buy or sell are location, location, location. So for us, it's always been to buy in an A location. What's an A location? Well, formerly, Santa Monica was an A location until the city of Santa Monica came in and imposed such a tremendous amount of regulatory requirements on the owners. But I would say coastal, all along the coast from Ventura all the way down to San Diego, that would be an A area. We do our best to try to purchase below replacement costs. That means if you determine what the land would cost and the building, we try to purchase at 70 or 80% of that replacement cost. We look for a value add component. What is that? That's where we can go in and we can put $10, $15, $20, $25,000 in each unit, and we can take the rents up by 10 or 15 or 20%. Because we've taken the building from what was, even though it might be in an A location, the building itself is, say, in a B condition. So we'll take the building up to its formidable operating look and feel, and we'll spend that amount of money and raise the rents, and that's how we create value.
Okay. And during that process, for all the people that are listening, you'd made a comment which I feel is very true. It's so much about relationships in anything that we have. It's just friendships, business relationships. But you had mentioned that the iPhone, it's as good as it is, has ruined people's ability to really get to know each other. Tell me about your perspective.
Absolutely, and that's a fantastic question. And I've been asked to speak over the years at several universities, many of our local universities, and they ask me, what is the key to acquiring these buildings? And I said, building relationships. How do you do that? I says, well, here's how you don't do it. There's 28 people in this class, and 24 of you are right now on your phone. Maybe you're taking notes, but maybe you're just on your phone. And it should be all about you looking at me and me building a relationship with you. Those 4 people that aren't on their phone, they're probably the most likely to succeed. We merely have used and do use the telephone and the internet to obtain information, make contacts with owners, those decision makers, and we use it as a tool to get in front of those individuals and build a relationship with them. And if you were to look at the 55 or 60 transactions that we've closed over the number of years that I've been in the business, every one of them has been based on some type of interpersonal relationship that we built, and not necessarily by texting and being back and forth through social media. Not that we don't use that as a tool, but it's merely a tool.
Yeah, it's not just texting. You shake their hand, look in their eyes, take them to dinner, bring them a sweater. The old Rick Selby, bring them some cupcakes, whatever it is.
Tequila.
Yeah. Tequila's a new thing. So is LA still a global magnet for international buyers, or same old story? It's too much regulations and a little bit too much change politically.
So the market has gone through a transition over the last 10 years from mom and pop owners to institutional capital and buyers. They're still there, the institutional capital and buyers. However, they are looking at LA through a different lens than previously. What is that lens? That lens has now become much more cloudy, if you will, and it's not clear which direction the state of California or the city of Los Angeles is headed. Is it going to become more and more progressive, or people finally throwing up their hands like they did in our presidential election here last November, and people just are fed up with the progressive attitude of the government and of our state. So I would say we're hopeful. 80% of our assets are in and around Los Angeles County, but we're fortunate that we have 20 to 25 of our assets in South County, all the way down to San Diego, Orange County, and 1,100 of our units, about 20% of what we own, is in the state of Nevada and Las Vegas.
How many total units do you own?
We have about 6,000 units.
Okay. And then would you say there's an area in Los Angeles that's overvalued or undervalued, or is that a little bit of the giving away the sauce? You're going to have too many people looking.
No, not at all. Certainly in the last 24 months, if you take a close look at it, we've had the fires to contend with, which is literally and figuratively put a lot of heat on our market. A lot of people have been displaced. We've had what they call the mansion tax. Anything over $5 million is taxed at 4 or 5, and as much as I believe 5.5%, 6%. We've had more and more progressive policies in the city of many of our cities. In the city of Los Angeles, we've had the COVID pandemic, and
Yeah, it's just
2020.
one disaster after another.
So we've had a myriad of, call them white, black swan events.
Right.
And they were unpredictable, Garth. However, a lot of cities, the more conservative cities, farther south, Riverside County, Orange County, San Diego County, have addressed those quite differently. So if you ask me what areas are most overvalued, I would certainly say Santa Monica. I think even to a great degree, Los Angeles is overvalued right now because the buyer pool, brokers for multifamily apartment buildings will tell you the buyer pool has shrunk probably by 25 to 50%.
That's tremendous. So I'm sure you've dealt with many high-profile clients. You remember any unusual requests or weird transactions that you don't need to name names, but anything that would be interesting at all?
Absolutely. I think the most interesting part in building these relationships that I'm speaking of, many times, if you're able to get to a particular owner of a property, you have to be able to take the challenge that comes with that or potential setback or failure. There are many times when I've sat down in an office and it's been a referral through a relationship, and I've sat down and I've been thrown out of the office within a minute or two because our view and value of the property didn't align with the owner of that property. And some of the folks that own 5, 10, 20, 30, 40,000 units, especially on those that are on the East Coast that own on the West Coast, they're pretty tough characters, Garth.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to.
You're pretty tough too. You can sharpen a pencil as good as anybody.
So you gotta have sharp elbows.
Yeah, you do have to have sharp elbows. For young people entering real estate today, what skill or quality do you think is the most important? Just building the interpersonal relationships, being able to see eye to eye, talk to them. I mean, what else? What else would you advise for somebody that's
so what we're seeing, and we will hire anywhere between 2 and 3 interns every summer, interns from in and around the universities generally of California, but sometimes all the way back through the East Coast, NYU, et cetera. What we see in today's culture coming out of the universities is quite different. It's very, very seldom do you see a youngster willing to work 10, 11, 12 hours a day. Mm-hmm. I think, as we've spoken so many times, I think that the iPhone, work ethic, I think the iPhone, the internet, all of this is somewhat disenfranchised the work ethic. Youngsters don't think they need to necessarily sit at a desk and grind away and go out and sit in front of people. They think they can do it on the telephone and through the internet. And I just don't, that's just not the way so I would say the work ethic of the folks is generally not what it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. But for those very, very few that are able to sit and grind it out and have sharp elbows and build their interpersonal and their analytical skills, which are very important. I don't want to underplay that at all by any means. If they can do that, there's a very, very bright future for those youngsters.
I see that work ethic declining in our industry too, and many other industries that I'm familiar with. So that's easy to understand. As Dr. Garth Fisher on the Cutting Edge, I'm speaking today with Richard Selby, who's a pillar in Los Angeles real estate industry, and he's a founder of Luna Nueva Tequila, which we'll get into a little bit later. How do you advise first-time buyers in Los Angeles who are overwhelmed with the prices and interest rates?
Go to other states.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing. You have to send your feelers over there. You have to develop a team, or how do you even start looking at that? And you got to get on the internet, right?
Well, you do. You get on the internet. You send your acquisition team out to the other states, meet and talk to brokers, sellers. There's nothing like going out there, Garth, and walking the properties. A month and a half ago, we were looking at an area of Salt Lake City and Salt Lake City, Utah. We went to Salt Lake and we spent a couple of days there, literally wearing your shoe leather off. So it's this business has elements of heavy lifting, and that's one of them. Walking around buildings might sound easy, but when you do that for 8 or 10 hours, and it's an hour or two commute each way, but there's no substitute for hard work.
Well, you also have to know what you're looking for. You can't just walk around as a newcomer, a newbie. You have to know, and you've got that experience. How many people are on your team that do this kind of stuff?
So our firm employs total about 400 people. That's the people in the field and again, those that are keeping the trains running on time and on the track. We have an acquisition team of 5. They were led by my partner's son, Kenny Folks, and those people are in and out and about. They're making the cold calls, they're communicating and writing, and so that team is 5. Our executive team is a total of 8 people, and then our office. We have an office in Orange County that we opened. We have about 30 people in our West LA office, and we have about 15 people in Orange County.
So you got a big team. We're with Richard Selby. I call him Rick. He's been a good friend of mine, if not my best friend, for probably 25 years. And he's very, very influential and successful in the LA real estate business. And he's also got a new tequila company we're going to talk about. But I've always known Rick. You've been so honest and straightforward and have a lot of integrity, and you're very responsible, very timely. And you've also we talked about a lot of different things about life. And you have, I believe, a list of 10 things that you think are very, very important that you tell everybody. I'd like to hear that list again and go through that with the listeners.
Of course. I think that might be helpful, especially to our younger listeners.
Yeah.
So when we talk about tequila in a few minutes, everyone will hear my daughter runs a company, and for me, I've always lived my life looking upon and wanting to create family first, which we can speak of a little bit later. And then that has directly transcended into the notion of the relationship aspect of the business, which we spoke about. I think prior to the relationship part and entering into any business, I think you've got to have a goal. I can remember when I was at USC in the early 70s, and we would have these opportunity to meet and greet every quarter. It was called Career Day, and we would bring in successful individuals, and they would speak about their career.
I love that.
And almost in every specifically, every one of those very, very successful individuals would talk about their goals and how they had to lay down a set of tracks and stay within those tracks and create a goal and write those goals down. So I'm a big proponent of every year I write my goals down. I try to visit those goals at least on a weekly basis. And I think that that's very important, is having specific goals.
Keeps you online.
It keeps you in line. It keeps you accountable.
Right.
In terms of that, part of those goals for me is creating new and fruitful relationships, whether that be personal, family, broadening my horizons. And I think one of the very, very important keys to my success has been not only creating those relationships, but having individuals that are my mentors that I can corroborate with, that I can call up, and I'm thinking of buying or selling, or what have you done to create such a successful company? Learning about how do you create and why should you have a fortress balance sheet? What is a fortress balance sheet? Well, a fortress balance sheet is one when we have, and this is a very, very important, maybe the most critical of the life lessons, when we have a downturn, What's a downturn? Most of the individuals in the real estate business today, I would say probably 8 or 9, they don't remember '08, the GFC.
Right.
They haven't been in the business 17 or 18 years.
Right.
So they don't remember 1980 when interest rates were 21.5%.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
those are cycles that you go through. You can only be prepared for those cycles if you
Have experience with them.
have experience with them and you have your goals and you understand that there can be, and those have been termed black swan events. What's a black swan? That's something that you cannot predict and a risk that will come upon you without you having the ability or anybody knowing that that risk was going to exist, like the 21.5%, the GFC crisis in '08.
You can't be prepared for it.
Can't be prepared for
No.
it. However, if you have a fortress balance sheet and you have capital and you have investors and you've prepared them mentally and emotionally, that's the time. And we see right now in 2025 a time when we're going through a potential opportunity because so much capital is concerned about what's going on, the tariff, the wars that we have. So if you're opportunistic, you then deploy capital during those times, and those have proven to be the absolute best time historically to buy is when there's turmoil in the
Right.
marketplace.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. You see people capitalizing on that decades before did that exact same thing.
Exactly. And coupled with that is monetizing at the right time. What does that mean? That means if you see an opportunity to receive an outsized price vis-a-vis what we think the market is, to monetize and be ready for the next cycle. So we generally have not sold. We try to create durable, sustainable, long-term, tax-sheltered cash flow. And if you buy in areas that we spoke about in appropriate locations, where the economics and the regulations are such that allow you to raise rents, those are going to prove to be the most valuable over time. But if you see a shift in the market, then we have, over the years, capitalized on that and sold and get ready for the next, for the next cycle to deploy capital.
This is Dr. Garth Fisher on The Cutting Edge. I'm here with Rick Selby in Los Angeles. He's one of the very well-known and respected and very successful real estate moguls, I would say. And we're learning a lot from him, especially anybody that's interested in real estate. This is a great time to get some of his tips.
Thank you, Garth. I appreciate it. We talked a little bit about cold calls. That's extremely important. Learn how to pick up the phone and reach out to owners, people in the finance business, and go out and see them in person.
Do you think that's the hardest and least glamorous role or job there is in real estate is getting the cold calls? I mean, it's necessary, probably not fun, and hidden in a room. And the cold calls followed by, I'm going to meet you for lunch.
Cold calls are, to me, I truly enjoy them because I've been doing it so long. But I think to most people, that's the most difficult. And to say, do you really enjoy sitting here calling up people that you don't know and trying to get in front of them? Now,
it's because you saw a structure, you saw a building that you're interested in. And so you call Mr. Johnson, I want to see your building and let's go to lunch. And he's probably wanting to do that because he wants to sell, right?
So we have an advantage now because of the platform that myself and my partner and our investors have created over the last 5 decades. So a very, very large proportion of owners, and especially the owner-operators, know of our company. Mm-hmm. So that's very advantageous. So it's not like it was when I started right out of SC and I called and my first building when I bought the first 8-unit property, the people hadn't heard of us. So I had to get in front of them and convince them that it was a good price,
Right.
that we were going to either pay them or list the property. And that's a difficult part of the business. It's still, but it's also the most predictable if you get in front of people and if you execute letters of intent and if you have integrity and you have the financial resources to back up the offers you make. It's proved to be the most reliable.
Well, I have seen you negotiate personally many times, and I think you would have razor elbows. And if you bought from somebody the first time, they'd be, oh, this is going to be a tough battle here when they know you're coming. But you're always very kind in how you do it, and very successful as well. If you went back, knowing what you know now and the experience that you have and the great success that you had, if you went back and you talked to yourself when you're 15, 18 years old, probably like you would your son, I mean, what advice would you give now after learning everything?
Excellent question. I think if I look at what my firm, myself, what we've accomplished, is certainly I would have recommended greater diversification in not so much in product type, but in geographic areas. I have a very close friend, Jeff Green. Many of you have heard of and know him. He was involved in a very subprime trade, exactly. Yeah. And he has apartments here. But in '08, he started purchasing in Florida and outside the state of California, and that's proved to serve him very, very well. So I would give myself the advice to greater geographic location, which we're looking at accomplishing here over the next 5 years.
Really balances you out. With some of the progressive issues that you're talking about and regulations, it might be less inhibitory in other states. I'm sure that's the case. And where you go these places, I'm sure there's a tough amount of competition because other people like you are looking there too. Yeah, is there a trick to being first? Because I'm sure everybody's looking at these locations. How do you get there first? I mean, you have a team that is very,
we have the acquisition team, and again, that's just hard work the old-fashioned way, making the calls, going out and looking at the property. We're fortunate now. We have the ability to point to our financial resources, the number of units we own, the financial institutions we work with, and we have an exceptional, as you know, we have an exceptional reputation, and it's not so much being first, but it's the ability to demonstrate to those sellers that we can perform and we do what we say we're going to do.
Yeah. You have a fund too, don't you?
Yeah, we have a fund. We have a fund with an insurance company, and then we have a friends and family fund, and we have been closing several transactions with our financial partner. Our friends and family fund, we've been sitting on the sidelines over the last 24 months. We're looking for what we call, Warren Buffett would put it, the fat ball pitch. What is that? That's right. Where we buy below replacement cost in a coastal area, and we have a very substantial amount of room to impart our value add formula, which is to put $20,000, $25,000 a unit and raise the rents on that property.
Okay. Rick, I just wanted to get a bullet point, your 10 important items that you say for real estate that you kind of live and abide by.
Absolutely, Garth. Great question. I think first and foremost, you have to have a goal. That would be number one. Okay. Very specific written goal. You have to create a brain trust. What's a brain trust? 3 or 5 individuals that share not only your vision, but have more experience than you do. Call it an informal advisory board.
Okay.
Become a long-term investor with a strategy focused specifically on multifamily. Pick one segment or sector of the real estate business. Purchase properties that you know or you can, with a reasonable certainty have durability and substantial cash flow after you impart your value add strategy to them to create durable, sustainable cash flow on a tax sheltered basis.
Okay.
Buy at a discount to replacement costs. We spoke about that earlier. Know and understand that a black swan event can occur at any particular time. We haven't had one since '08, but probably due for another one. Understand the consequences of a potential and risks such as a black swan event. Another of my key specific life lessons would be create a liquidity mechanism, whether that be a fortress balance sheet where you have 10 or 20% of your assets set aside in cash. So when you have a downturn, you can purchase, or as a corollary to that, have a line of credit set up where you can walk into the bank and you can ask for a substantial amount of money on a line of credit when you do have a black swan event.
Mm-hmm.
Another key would be do not over leverage. A subset of that, but another one of my absolute premises in real estate that has helped us immensely is monetize when the time is right and do not over leverage. Those go hand in hand. Understand and know that there are cycles in real estate. I call it the recency effect. Individuals really today are not prepared for another event such as in '08 because they haven't been around in '08. That's a recency. They can only remember the last 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years when the market has been very robust.
That's where experience comes in.
That's where experience comes in, and where you want to invest with those that have that experience.
Right.
Successful investors, Garth, prepare for this volatility, and they understand you want to invest with a team that has that experience in those down markets, and they've been stress tested in those markets. We've had to give you just a 1, 2, 3, 4. We had a credit crunch in '74. We had an expansion of rents then in '75 through '79. And then in '81 through '82, we had 21% interest rates. Folks don't remember those times. You have to be prepared for those. We had a prime rate that went all the way up, as I said, 21%. In 1985, there was little or no construction that followed that. In 1996, we had in 1986, we had a Tax Act that created an opportunity to buy. So some of these cycles will create opportunities. You have to capitalize on those. The current landscape is we have a tremendous amount, as you all know, of national debt. I think our national debt is upwards of $35 trillion, if I'm not mistaken. So
I look at this and I think, you're just so experienced that one of the greatest advantages, like you said, is not the recency syndrome, but you've just had so much longevity that you can predict all this. And you've just, you've really dominated that market and become so successful. How did you transition that into the world of tequila?
Well, that's interesting. About 10 years ago, I was down in and around Guadalajara. It was over actually before Guadalajara. We were in Punta Mita on a family trip, and I met an individual. He says, "You got to try this tequila." And it was like at a Thanksgiving family dinner. And I'm not a big fan of tequila because at the time I was drinking just vodka and wine. And so I tried the tequila and I thought, wow, this is pretty smooth. And he invited himself up. His name was Luis Cruz. He invited himself up. I had a restaurant in Hollywood that was the old Ledoux Cafe. That's a family property that we own. And he came up and we did some blind taste testings, more blind taste testings with other friends of mine at various restaurants. So I said, geez, he really has something here. So I purchased a small amount of the company, and then a year or two later, I took a controlling interest in the company. And here over the last 5 or 6 years, my daughter has really taken control of the company, and it's just been a wonderful passion project because of all the people that I know. And
I know. You've done very well with this, and I'm sure you're in a lot of stores right now. Not stores, but a lot of people are serving yours. I go into restaurants and I see it commonly.
we're in over 200 restaurants right
Yeah,
now, places like Avra and Beverly Hills, and
yeah.
I think we're in 90% of all the high-end restaurants down in Venice, Elefante, et cetera, et cetera. So we're doing.
How's Luna Nueva? How's it different than other
So
tequila
our
companies?
our product is small batch. It's made in the Rondas area where the water is very, very pure. It's not in a factory like you see Coca-Cola factory bottling thousands and thousands of cans and bottles. Ours is literally handcrafted and put it in the bottle. The Vivanco family has been around generation upon generation, so it's a small family distillery, and there's no additives. It's extremely pure, and we're in places. We're very proud that we're in Erewhon, which is very difficult
Right.
to. They have very high standard to be able to get in there. I think we're the #1 tequila in
You have three different types.
We have silver, añejo, and reposado,
Okay.
and
The bottles are beautiful. That was really great design. And you've been there. How long have you been involved in Luna Nueva?
so that's been a total of going on about 10 years.
And where do you envision it in 5 years?
So I hope we're breaking even in 5 years because
It's hard.
I think when we were sitting down, you've asked me, what are the parts of being in that business that you couldn't or didn't anticipate, and probably first and foremost is I did not anticipate that you certainly could make a small fortune, but you have to start with a very large one, and
That's great.
and you. Whether it be through taking on a partner like Casamigos did, or working through social media, we do not have and have elected not to have a celebrity spokesperson / partner, simply because we enjoy my daughter's heading up the company, Kelsey, and we enjoy growing the brand organically.
So if you could sum it up in one sentence, what does Luna Nueva mean to you? What does it mean to you personally?
It's a passion family-owned company, and I'm very excited about it because it gives me an opportunity to work with my daughter, and my family is very important to me. Both my daughters, I have two girls and a boy, and both my daughters are very, very active in Luna Nueva, and my younger daughter, Chloe, is involved and very active in R.W. Selby and Company.
Now, is there a place that somebody could go test this, or where
Yeah.
would you direct somebody to buy?
So all throughout Venice, whether that's Elefante or Bell's, Paloma, it's in Beverly Hills at Avra, or you can go in and buy you can go in and buy at Erewhon. And my belief is you have you can go on our website and you can click on and purchase on our
Okay.
website.
Okay, so on a personal note, what's your day like? You're very, of anybody I know, you're just so disciplined and regimented and structured, and I can tell time by calling you. I can hear your voice and know what you're doing. What's your structure for a day?
So, of course, now it's changed substantially over the last 10, 15 to 20 years when I don't have to get up and rush to the office by 6:30 or 7 a.m. and start breakfast meetings at 8. Today, I'm still an early riser. I'm up by somewhere between 6 and 7. I'll be on calls and, so to speak, work at home until about 8. Then I'll do a routine which involves swimming, cold plunge. I'll go down to my gym and work out for an hour. And about 10 o'clock, I'll have a very healthy breakfast, which consists of some protein and cereal. And I try to get into the office somewhere 10:30, and then I'll work until 1 o'clock, and then I'll do a lunch meeting, generally business lunch from 1 to 2. And
That's 1 till 2. It's not 1:10 to 2:10. It's 1 to 2.
no, 1
1 to 2.
about an hour and a half, and then I'll work until somewhere between 5 and 6, and then, as you know, I'll get a massage or go home and have some time, recreation time, and then I'll have dinner either at home or go out. And it's about 50-50, eating home and going out and having business dinners.
And I guess that's probably very important to you in your health, happiness, and business part of your life. It's been very much a success for you. And I've observed it, watched it, and admired it.
Thank you.
What do you do for fun?
So I really enjoy snow skiing. I'm avid snow skier. This year, I had a back surgery, as you know, in early January, so that threw off. I only got to ski 4 or 5 days this year. I enjoy tennis a lot, hiking. I try to take a walk every day, whether that be for 2 or 3 blocks or 2 or 3 miles. I work out in the gym, and I do yoga, and I'm a connoisseur of fine food and wine, and
you travel.
And I
so
travel.
You have a very full life. It's Dr. Garth Fisher on the Cutting Edge, and it's been such a pleasure having you. There's so much for people to learn, and especially in the real estate market area, but all walks of life, really. These are very important points. And if you guys missed the show on the radio, you can watch The Cutting Edge on Instagram at Garth Fisher MD, Cutting Edge. And I want to thank KCBS, Odyssey, our sponsors, Cal and Mike, our producers, the Cutting Edge team, and of course you, the listeners. I'm Dr. Garth Fisher, and we'll hear from you next week. Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you.